I think to do is to share what is my work in prevention, and after my work in the treatment field, um, and to know a little bit of my background. I began to work 40 years ago, so a lot of time that I work in the field of prevention and research in this area. When I began to work in prevention, mainly in schools, doing some work in Portugal, in Coimbra. And after some years, I was invited with some colleagues. One of them you know very well is Paulo Stocco, to be part of a network that was organizing Europe. And this network, we call it IREFREA. It was one of the first networks in Europe, and I think it's the oldest network of prevention and research in Europe. And mainly, we did a work in prevention because at the time when we created IREFREA, the topic is treatment, and we only talk about treatment and heroin and cocaine, but we don't have so many. We didn't have so many people working and doing some work in prevention. So the idea is to create this European network about prevention, and we began to do our work. Before to create IREFREA, we have some work together in some projects, and we work with children's institutionalized in houses. And for main topics, we choose and we share between the coordination of the IREFREA three main topics. It was families with me. It was prevention with and recreational context with Amador, and Paulo Stocco that work in the women issues. So we did a lot of work and a lot of research that you can read in our IREFREA EU or IREFREA org, all the research that we have done. Also with the new substances, and I remember the ecstasy, we begin to do a work more linked to recreational nightlife. And we made I think it was the first research in Europe about nightlife and academic context. And it was very interesting because after this moment, all the people began to look at the recreational nightlife very different. This was my context, and I began to work with IREFREA, and I formed IREFREA Portugal in 1986, formally because I did work before this. And one day, I remember, and I was working in prevention, Thomas and Paulo, they invited me to join the ROTC. And for me, it was very new because I worked in prevention. Treatment, it was not my field. Something in another world, I thought it was different. And I was a little surprised with this situation about to be invited to be part of the ROTC. And step by step, this idea that maybe something could be very interesting to combine treatment and prevention, because I don't know in your countries, but in Portugal, we like very box of prevention, box of treatment, box of harm reduction interventions. Sometimes we fight against each other about interventions. They're very critical about this kind of things, mainly in Portugal, I thought. And slowly, when you begin to have an idea that what could I talk here about prevention, and tomorrow we'll see a little what we have done, and we are doing this in this moment with the IREFREA in Coimbra, and I don't know where, everywhere a little. I was this idea that we could change ideas about prevention in our communities. And I remember this idea of Paulo and Thomas, when they invite me to come and to be part of this network, because we are talking about, are you on drugs? And this means two things. Are you on drugs because you need treatment? Are you on drugs because the prevention didn't work? So we can begin to think that is together. And one time I was invited to talk about prevention versus harm reduction, because many people think that don't combine together, but they combine together very much. And if you think, okay, okay, thank you. And if you think in a coin, we are the two faces of a coin. If we can think about prevention and treatment, we are talking about the same issues, looking maybe in different ways, but we are the same coin. So we must understand the situation and work more closely each other than to be a part of each other. Also, because when we talk about drugs, prevention and treatment, sometimes in our countries, and we are very happy that in Portugal we have different ideas. We are more open in the situation, and we do a different work. What we can offer for the people that has this kind of problems? Jail, or forced treatment, or justice interventions. And when we think about this, also we think about the responses that we can do, that we can give to the people that have such kinds of behaviors. But also we can think about how to make this bridge between prevention and treatment interventions be together, because we are part of the same coin. We deal with the same situations, and we'll show you one or other way. We share the same questions, we share the same responses in the same concerns that we have. And when we talk about prevention and treatment, I don't know in your country, but sometimes it's not easy to think about what kind of response we give, what kind of response are we trying to give to our colleagues or our groups. And sometimes, even in prevention field or in treatment centers or interventions, sometimes I don't know what we are doing, because sometimes what we do is, I have some doubts about the results, and some colleagues, they ask me if it's not better to do nothing and let the thing go on than do something that hurts the people. So, and I look some treatment centers in Portugal, I asked me the same questions. It's better to do something or let them go away and do other kinds of approaches. Because sometimes what we do, and I think we have all good intentions in our work and in our work with our people that we treat, but the good intentions is not enough to do a good work. So this point is very important. And when we look to this, what are the objectives of the prevention? Because if you remember, maybe you are very young to remember this, but it was easier when we talk about prevention and drugs, it was say no to drugs. It was easier. Don't use it. Don't try to use it. But with the time and what we learned during this almost 50 years, it's the concept of prevention is more complex than ever. And this is put together many questions now, And I think there's many questions that we have in prevention, you have also in the treatment part of the question. So, for example, avoid that people begin to take drugs, to delay the beginning of the use, that the people begins later than the 14 or 12 or 11 that begins more or less in our numbers, to limit the use of the combination of different uses, um, to decrease the factors of risk and empower the factors of protective factors. So this is part of the goals that we can share in our approaches, in prevention, but also in treatment. And I'm lucky because I have this possibility. I was 30 years ago coordinating our therapeutic community, and now in the last 7 years, 10 years, I coordinated also the same therapeutic center. And I notice now with more clarity this kind of concepts that we use also in the treatment centers when we work with our people. Hello. So I think, and we can discuss after, that we share the same goals when do our work. When in prevention, we do prevention, and when we in treatment centers, we do also we work with our clients. But also, when I think when approaching prevention and the treatment centers, when we are asking what we are doing with our clients, even in prevention or the treatment, uh, we are educating someone. I know this concept could be very strange or could be very, we can discuss it after the word educational. I feel that in our community, uh, and also when we do prevention uh, with all uh, with all the components of the interventions, we are educating someone, the group, or someone that's in our groups. But the difference, uh, and I don't see any difference between prevention and treatment, that when we do our work is an intentional intervention. I know some treatment centers or therapeutic communities that are not so intentional when they do treatment in situations of addictions. So they can do many things there, different kind of approach in different kinds of situations. So intentionality is one important component of our institutions. In the consistent approach, uh, we are dealing with very specific components of the interventions, but is always uh, including in the program, not an idea today, and we do this today because we think it's important, and tomorrow we change the subject and we change for another thing. No, no, we are consistent in our intervention. Otherwise, it could be very difficult to do interventions in prevention. Persistent in our therapeutic approach or preventive effort, I think, to work in mainly because I have this idea, and more now with my part in treatment, we need to be persistent. We need to have a capacity to um, to absorb what our clients put us in our hands, but also a capacity to have ideas how to deal with the situation, and it's not easy. If our government could maybe give us more attention and pay more, give more money and more time to do our work. It was very interesting. Um, and think very well and, for this moment. I think this is happening. To have very well defined our target groups. I know sometimes we put all in this the melting point, but I think for our approaches we are we have very well defined what we want to do, which one. What kind of strategies that we have and that we share also. We have the information that we give to the people, and when we talk to, especially to politicians, always the most used word is prevention, and prevention is solution for all. But in the end, I don't know if they understand what they are talking when they talk about prevention. And information about, for example, for substance use or substance abuse, this is important. Awareness, because we do a lot of work with our clients about it and our groups. Skill trainings. We training in prevention with kids, with families, with health people. We training different approaches with them, and we do the same with our clients in our therapeutic communities and in our treatment centers. We do empower the people. Very interesting, this concept that is growing importance of empowering the people, empower the capacities of each one to choose a way out of the situations and support in this choice of the way that they choose to go. And this is more new, and frequently I see the importance of this is to evolve in our responses. Our community colleagues and community NGOs and public and private partners that support us in the situation of drug addiction. I remember, I think we talked in Austria, I don't know, this very idea of the African people that say to raise a child, we need all a community. So I think the idea now for us that work in this area of prevention, mainly in prevention or treatment, to do some work, we need not only to work with our clients, but we need to work with all partners that are disponible to help us, from labor parties, from families, for NGOs that work in the field, social security, justice department, police department, health department. So it's important to involve all of them in this approach. And we do more and more in prevention this kind of approach and work with our colleagues. But also daily in the community, daily with our students, our groups, target groups in prevention. What we do with them, we set limits for them. It's important. I know it's not easy, not for us sometimes, for our target group is not also. Develop a critical and rational skills or sense. And I know that you do a lot of work in this area, and this is important to them, to us, to be very open to these situations. And we try to do daily in our interventions also, reorganizing the system and of values and references for our clients, for our students, for the people that work with us. And for example, in this moment that we are talking about a lot of cannabis, and this idea that all people smoke cannabis and have problems or each day is growing. Maybe some work, not only about information about it, but some serious reflections about the impact of the situations. So, and we are in this also in this moment, in a very important moment in Europe, not in Europe, but the international level, to raise very important issues about health and the use of some substances. And also I think not only cannabis, but because it's the most illegal drug that consumes in Europe, but also the new substances of use, but also the non-chemical addiction that we are dealing each day, and they are a very serious problems. Um, and if you look to what you do to your clients and what we do with our target groups in prevention, mainly two big groups. One is interpersonal skills that we try to develop in the program, in the sessions, in the interventions, assertivity, ability to resolve interpersonal conflicts, social and emotional competences, and we know how they don't mainly they don't achieve to get this kind of responses. Empathy, understanding the others, and it's very also interesting when we see and we are in the community to see different kind of people that have different kind of perception of many issues that we thought were resolved, but when they are dealing between the groups, we understand that questions like homosexuality, violence, is not issue so discussed, so open. So we use this training space to also to talk about and to develop new ideas. Um, communication, uh, communication skills to the people to understand and to be able to talk with others and explain what happens. I have this idea in prevention. I think in prevention we have a lot of good programs in the moment. Not so many, but a few with very good competencies. But this is an old idea, old idea that I have, that some of the programs they don't go ahead because the people don't look to the situation of communication skills. Sometimes I have very good information, I have very good support to share with my clients or my groups, but the way that we communicate, the way they learn to communicate, maybe it was possible to have a small part of the program only to address questions of communication. My idea, and I know a lot of programs, a lot, and sometimes I see good programs that don't go for don't go ahead because the questions of communication is failing. But also, each day in our therapies, in our the groups prevention, um, we discuss this personal skills, different personal skills that we are proposing, discussing, presented to our clients, ability to make decisions rationally and strategically. I think we do this. Ability to set our own goals. I think in the many programs, this is part of the initial project to set initial goals, but never knows. And coping strategy to overcome difficulties or practical situations. And we do, as I think you have, these groups that help people when they're in treatment to overcome some different situations. Um, interesting thing, because when Paul Stocco begins to work with women's and issues about women's, um, we notice, and we were listening to what Paul and his team are doing about women's, and what we hear about different programs when they talk about only interventions with women's, is that, and we have the same situation in prevention, not easy. It's not easy sometimes to involve women in our projects. Um, I know, for example, the American people, they have a special programs for women and prevention, and they do a lot of work with small contents about it. And I know also in the treatment centers, sometimes different the way that we pass information or we receive information and the way that we proposal specific interventions is also not easy because we have this question that maybe many people talk about it during these years, but I didn't see yet some very consistent responses to it. And now that the new issue is violence against women, um, this means that we must look to the situation with more careful. Um, but not yet in the violence, because it's very important. The way that we think projects, interventions for women, we could dedicate more time and to think how we can do to do this better. So another question is, and you see, if you are aware of the prevention interventions and prevention programs, this kind of relapse prevention, or more or less in prevention we call boosters for some situations or some groups, that yes, they are treating, yes, they are having a prevention intervention, but somewhere, and for particular reasons, they need a booster to do some work. And for example, in our community, we have a special group inside the center dedicated to this relapse prevention, and we'll try to do a lot of work with them, because when they go out, the situation is there, and we don't think it's not enough what we do in our, or could be more important. It's important to do more to do this relapse prevention. And I can find difference when I talk about relapse prevention, for example, when I talk to people with alcohol problems or other drugs situations. I think they need more time, and more work to do this kind of approach. New challenge for us, yes, you have a lot. We have this new NPS, new drugs, that we don't know sometimes how to deal. For example, in Portugal, we are very good background to treat people with heroin problems, cocaine problems, but with other substances, I listen to some doctors that are running some treatment centers that say we don't find yet the good solution for this, and we know to try very different. But not only these new drugs that appear like mushrooms every day, also the non-chemical dependencies are a challenge for us. I don't know if you have experiences with this. We begin to have in Coimbra, and this is totally new, the way that we deal with the situations. I know that the mechanism of addiction is the same, but the approach, the theoretical approach and the behavioral approach must be different. And this will be in the future a challenge for us in the treatment centers and also in the prevention field. Because we have a problem that we talk tomorrow, is Decide Yourself, and we teach the people, we begin to talk about non-chemical dependencies, game, smartphones, everything that is related to the tool. But also this new context of use of abuse, they are changing. And we see in Europe, and we can see in Portugal, this is different kinds of groups that are using in different kind of situations. And we have discussed it yesterday because some guy in Portugal said that after COVID, Maybe the groups, this recreational contest will be different. Maybe the people don't go out very often with a lot of people, but small groups. We return to house parties, and this is very popular now in Portugal, house parties, um, with small groups, with more heavy consumption, with different situations. So we must look, because we work in centers, we do prevention and we do treatment, but we are involved in the community. And they reflect what happens in this community. And we receive after the people that goes to look for an answer of the situations. So we are fast facing new situations. And very interesting, I talked this with Paulo and Thomas. Some years ago, the therapeutic communities, it was the answer. A lot of people are coming to us and looking for responses. And after with methadone and other drugs of substitution, appears that no one looks at us, and we feel that we have every year less people. But in the last, I don't know, 4, 5 years, and the increase with COVID, we have a list of people to enter is very, very important, and we don't have responses to give it. That's the part of the treatment, because the part of prevention, we are closed. Uh, we don't go to schools because it's difficult. We do small interventions in the community, very limited. So I don't know how these numbers of interventions reflects in the future, what go to increase or not increase the numbers that appear in the next years. Also, and the idea in the beginning to work with ROTC, not only to take this approach of prevention, but also to think about evaluation. Most of projects, programs, interventions are not evaluated in Europe, in the world. Very few, and you don't know what is the real result of it. Sometimes, for example, when I begin to work in Coimbra in therapeutic community, I never saw a number about evaluation of the number of people, what people go, and it was good. I don't know, and we need to show this data for our politicians and for ourselves, because I need to know that my work is going well. So, and that this happens also in prevention, but I think worst in prevention with some results. And now we can share this idea to improve. Also, I know that when we talk about evaluation in Europe, is not, we don't have consensus. the way that we do this, why we need evaluation, but it's the truth if we are realistic and we want to do a very important job. That's that we need to evaluate our intervention and show the numbers. And for therapeutic communities, this is the moment, because they are looking for us. We have a list of people to enter, and we have a small, we have the maximum is 16, but I have 12, 14. We have a list for enter, very important for this moment, and I don't have response for them. So I think that's the moment that can show us. I know that in Portugal we have less money, it's very difficult for the moment, but it was important to invest in these areas, and they have criteria. I know that some groups, maybe Thomas can tell us about some European projects that are looking for this, the way that we are dealing with treatment and treatment center responses. So maybe we can see these numbers later and what they do, but I'm very critical. I think sometimes in Europe, each we must develop the idea of a common part of us. And sometimes the countries or the networks are very close one to another of those situations. So we need to improve. Um, and strongness of, for example, for athlete, there's possibility that I look and I heard new experiences. I know that if I can go to Austria, to Hungary, to Croatia, to Germany, I have nice people waiting for me. But I can go there and maybe I can send my people there and learn with your experiences. And believe us, uh, in the meetings that we did, we take some of your ideas and your interventions and begin to put them in our work there. So this is the most important part of our interventions. And in this way, we must do a lot of work yet. We are not done, far from it. Like a final conclusion of my reflection, it was that in prevention, like in other situations of addictions, treatment of harm reduction, we are discussing that maybe part of all our work, we have uh, something that is belong to all. I know that after we have specificities for prevention, for treatment, for outpatient interventions, I know that between inside prevention I need to think more about women's and intervention about women's or more about it. But it's possible. It's possible to develop a curriculum that we can put together to deal with this kind of situations. Because for example, and I shared this idea when I began 40 years ago, uh, I have this idea that as a prevention man, I could talk with my groups in my communities, with families, in schools and teachers. But when I asked for example, for someone from the treatment center, they do a lot of treatment, but they have some difficulties to pass the information to the parents and to talk with them. Sometimes uh, very specific intervention with a specific language that the common people don't understand. So maybe for the bosses in the future, this idea to build a common curriculum for this area, it was very interesting because it's new. I never understand this, and that because in this area of addiction, we cover a lot of other situations, violence. I don't know. I don't remember now, but we can put together a lot of things that could develop for different kind of approaches, and thus certainly it could be a very interesting way to think in the future for these new situations, because when I look back and I think this intervention given this opportunity when I thought, wow, 40 years of this in this area, and I never change, always drugs, and I think I never changed again for other areas. How this changed in so many in this all these years, and the idea that the next generation, and we have very young people here that could think another day to continue with this, but with more responsibility and to be more precise with the intervention that we can give to our clients, families, teachers, labor labor colleagues, everything. So thank you for this opportunity, and I think now it was important to share what you think about, what is your understanding of this. I know that some of you are younger, but this means nothing because you have the experience. So we can talk about this and share ideas.